Hello everybody, my name is Michael, and in today's video what we're going to be doing is this right here. So if that looks exciting to you guys, please carry on and watch the video. Oh, and just one more thing before we go. Please consider like, commenting, and subscribing if you enjoyed the video. But now with all that out of the way, let's carry on with the video. Okay, so starting off just before we get into some painting, I've just added a bit of ground covering here for the base of our miniature. So this is just some gravel I've gotten from the driveway, and then primed it all up so we can paint it. And then to start off with our snowy owlbear that we're going to be doing, I'm going to start off with a deck tan, which is sort of like a yellowish cream color, because you might be tempted to go straight away with white since we want to have that snowy owlbear look, but you actually want to use white very sparingly and use a lot of other colors that lead up to white to sell the effect of a white animal a little bit easier than just going straight on white. That way we can highlight up and do other things to make it look a little bit more interesting. Okay, so once we have all that deck tan on there, I'm going to come in now with some castle grey. I'm going to be using castle grey to be painting up the giant stone slab our owlbear is standing on. There's a nice stone slab carved in, so it looks like our owlbear can be peering out of a cave or on top of the cliff, whatever we sort of want. So we want to come in with a nice grey colour, and since castle grey is sort of a more brownish grey, it's going to help accent the white and the greys that we're going to be using on our snowy owlbear as well. Okay, now we've got that stone slab painted up. I'm going to come in now with some charred brown. I'm going to be using charred brown for the ground texture that our owlbear is walking out from, which is just stones from my driveway, like I said before, just glued on and primed up. So we're going to get a lot of different variations in size and textures onto the piece, and we're just going to, of course, go with our charred brown all over that to give it that nice bit of colour and separate it out from the owlbear itself. Then once we add that brown on, we're going to come in now with some agrax earthshade, and what we're going to be doing is we've been giving a wash to all the ground texture as well as that stone slab, giving it a nice overall covering with that agrax earthshade. Really try and let it get into all the recesses and little divots and stuff with all the ground cover we've got in there from the driveway, because there's all lots of little stones and sands. You're going to need quite a bit of variation, and the agrax earthshade is going to really help pull that out. And as well with that, when we're doing the actual owlbear itself, we're going to be doing in the same agrax earthshade, but we're just going to be adding a little bit of Lamy Medium, which is going to help thin down our wash. It still lets it keep the same wash-like property so it can get into all those recesses, but we don't want it strong because we don't want our owlbear to come out brown. We just want it to have those little brown accents and get into those shadows and places like that. So I'm being a little bit more heavy-handed, as you can see here, into the shadows, so we get that different effect, and it looks like he has been traveling through the wilderness. Then once we have all that completely dry, we can start moving on with some highlights. So we're going to come in now with some ivory, which is not quite a pure white, it's just an off-white. So this is going to be great for our next highlighting step. Now, with our ivory color here and our highlights, I'm going to be applying it more to the top areas and just a little bit into certain places in the shadows, but I'm avoiding areas like right under the wings and places that you can't really see, because we want to have that nice deep shadow difference in the colors, and it's going to easily read off more as it is a white animal with the shadows showing through as well. And then once we've got that highlight of ivory on there, now it's time to come in with our white and really giving the highlights to those very top areas. So paying a little bit more close attention to the actual face, on the shoulders, just on the wing tips, and that being very, really light with our plain matte white dry brushing we're doing here, because we want it for just the very highest points. Now luckily this miniature is great for dry brushing with all its great details of the feathers and the fur in here, so it's going to be really easy, but I'm just using a really light touch. And since we've got the layer of deck tan, our ivory, and our white, it's going to read as a lot more realistic, sort of living, breathing, white colored animal. Then once we've got that all done, we can now start moving on to some details. And first up, we're going to come in with some squid pink. And we're going to be using squid pink for just the inside of our owlbear's mouth in here. So you want to switch to a nice small brush, maybe one with a really fine tip point, so you can really get in there and try and avoid all the beak and teeth that it's got sculpted into the miniature, And you can see I'm just being careful here and really making sure I get it in behind those teeth, moving it all around at funny angles so I can get the best range and get the paint everywhere I need it to be. Then once that pink's all dried up, we're going to come in now with some black grey. And we're going to be using black grey for just a couple places on the miniature. We're going to be using it for the claws and the beak. And the reason why I haven't gone with straight pure black for this is because we're going to be using that detail to be picking out the feathers a little bit later on, because snowy owls have black spots and stuff on their feathers, and I wanted to separate those colours out a little bit. And looking at photos online and that, their beaks and their claws and talons and stuff, they aren't quite a pure black. They can range from a yellowish type colour to grey to dark black itself. So I wanted to mix that up a little bit, so that's why I'm going here with a dark grey rather than straight black. Then once we have those beak and claws picked out, it's time to come in with some flat yellow, and we're going to be using this to be picking out our owlbear's eyes. We want those nice, vibrant, bright owl eyes, and this nice flat yellow is going to be a really good way to add in that super bright contrast that we want, as well as give the eye something to focus on the miniature as well. And just as you can see here, I'm using a fine tip brush, really getting on there, and I'm using more of the edge of my brush than the actual tip to really pick out the areas and try and avoid accidentally overspilling everywhere, because we want to try and avoid doing all that first layers of steps and dry brushing over again. Then once we have those yellow eyes painted up, we're going to come in now with some red tone, and we're just going to be using this in one little area, and that's for inside the beak of our owlbear here, really trying to get into all that pinkish detail and really give it that sort of flesh inside mouth look. And the red is going to really help give that a lot of variety and stuff in there. So it's just a nice quick dab in there, being careful to avoid getting it anywhere else. Then once we've done that, what we're going to be doing is we're coming in with our pure black now. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try and focus on the eyes first, rather than doing all the bits of detail. While I've got a lot less paint on the model, I want to really try focus in and get these eyes right. Now these will take quite a bit of practice. I'm still working on getting my eyes right. As you can see here, I've got a nice fine tip brush, and I'm just working around in circles, trying to get the eyes as even and as symmetrical and eye-like as I possibly can. It's not an easy thing to do, but don't be afraid if you do. Just wait for the paint to completely dry and paint over it if you do make a little mistake like I have here, and I'll just keep going over it again and again until I get a place where I'm happy with it. So it's totally up to you how you feel with when you're placing the eyes on the miniature. Then once you've got the eyes in how you want, what we're going to be doing now is we're going to come in and be painting up the details and really making this look like a snowy owlbear rather than our traditional owlbear. So coming in with the black again, and I'm just picking out areas that make it look like a realistic snowy owl. So painting in the giant big eyebrow feathers, and of course the little bits of feathers around the actual owl itself. So I'm going around just picking out just the tips around the face, and of course with the bits we're getting here, I'm just placing them in sort of like dabbing motions, really carefully picking them out. So I'm just sort of tapping it on the edge, trying to get those little spots of hair picked out, and so it's going to be a good nice frame for the face as well. And then while I'm doing that, I also want to make sure we get the feathers as well, and to make it look like a actual snowy owl, I'm just doing the exact same thing that we did on the face, and just doing the very tips of the actual wing feathers as well. And you can see there's quite a few on here, so you're going to be spending a little bit of time going through and picking them out, and it's totally up to you how far you want to go with this. You might want to go big and crazy and do it to every single feather like I've seen some people do online. I'm just going to be more focusing on the wings, and then I'm going to be doing a few on the chest as well. I don't want to make it a spotty snowy owlbear. I want to make a snowy owlbear with just some of those highlight accents and make it sort of more natural looking, I guess. And I don't want to detract too much by having black spots everywhere. I want the miniature to sort of stand out as its own piece as well. And then once you've done those details and you place as many or as much as you want, we can move on to a few last steps here to really help finish off the piece. So coming in with our uniform grey, and all I'm going to do is give it a light dry brushing over that nice big stone slab. Just going to add a little bit of blue colour in there. We want to add in just a few more bits of colour since we're very few colours on this actual miniature itself. So adding in a little blue grey in here is going to help give it that little bit of extra punch as well. Then once we've got that uniform grey dry brushed on, I'm going to come in and dry brush on just a little bit more with ash grey, and that's a lot lighter grey, just to help highlight that stone a bit more and give it that bit more realistic look. Then once you've done that, your miniature will be complete, and it's up to you whether you want to place snow flocking or grass tufts and stuff on here. It's totally up to you how heavy you want to go with the snow. I'm going with sort of a light snow feel, like it's just popped out of the cave or standing on that cliff top. So you'll be able to see in the final results of what it came out like and how I did the snowing base. And with all that complete, we have now finished painting up our Owlbear miniature from the Dungeons & Dragons Wizkids range. And you can see that we can turn these Owlbear miniatures into snowy owlbears nice and easily without too much hassle. So I hope this has been useful for you guys to give you inspiration to do it yourself, or you just enjoy me painting up some cool miniatures. And also, just one more thing, this is going to be my last video for the year, so I'll be having a little bit of break. Since it's the holiday season, I'll be busy doing a lot of things, but don't worry, I will be back next year with a whole bunch more new tutorials and other things miniature and hobby related. So I'll see you guys in the new year, and I hope you have a great holiday too.